Downtown, I got that heat, let's go. Downtown, I got that heat, let's go.
Yo, Moose, what up?
Oh, damn, you already know.
Oh, shit. Ah, damn. You knew we had to do one.
I'm ready to go. I'm so excited for this one.
Hey, Moose, did you know it was kind of a big day for the Death Star, man?
Oh, man. Big day is an understatement, man. The thongs are going to be pissed.
Yeah, they are going to be pissed. Actually, the big thong will be pissed.
The guy from Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, Deceiver, that piece of...
Terrible.
Yeah, he's the worst. So, Moose, you caught my most recent video about the whole T-Mobile situation?
Oh, my God. We need to talk about that, too, man. It's so sad.
I feel like that deserves its own live stream, man.
Yeah. It's just so disappointing that he thinks that he can just backtrack and everybody's going to be like, oh, no, he didn't mean to do what he did, but yet the internal documents don't lie, man.
So hear me out on this, right, Moose?
Right.
Scumbaggius Maximus, a.k.a. Mike Deceiver, has very large, conglomerates of fecal matter on his face from the whole ordeal.
Terrible.
He's just so disrespectful. The way that he insults people's intelligences, man.
It's unbelievable.
He's just trash at the highest order. See, it's one thing to be like, oh, it's corporate talk. This is how business goes. What's wrong with being accountable for your business? Like, why must we play the deflection game? Like, you didn't get where you got to in life deflecting. You know what I'm saying? Like, leaders don't deflect. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? He's a loser. It's crazy, dog.
I still can't believe it that he would. I have a very strong theory about what happened that we can probably get into.
Check it out, Moose.
Yeah, go ahead.
Check it out. I'm messing with the camera just a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay. I have a very strong feeling or a theory about what actually happened. So I believe that he only knew certain pieces of information. For example, he was told, hey, we're going to be able to get more money out of our existing base because we're going to be migrating, or we're going to be doing something, to get them off of the legacy plans, right? But he didn't know the fine details, right? He didn't know the fine details. I believe there was a miscommunication through the chain of command where it stayed at like a vice president level, right? And it didn't go up further higher than that, right? Because they were like, oh yeah, if it's going to make us more money, perfect, we need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then let's just do it. Because as we all know, there's going to be a dividend next year and stock buyback. And there's potentially involved in the Frontier thing. And see, there's more stuff, right? And Mint Mobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different things that require money, cash flow coming in. And unfortunately, these folks that are only spending, $100 a month for 12 lines is just it's not right for the company, right? They need to be making more money from those customers.
Yeah, but my problem still is and will be the deflection piece. When you're the head of a company like this, you have to be accountable for the actions of the company. You can't sit there and try to deflect and say, oh, you know how it goes in the media. They always spin everything out of context. Bro, we had the document. Nowhere on that document did it say 1% of customers were going to be impacted. They amended that and changed it later because they got their asses kicked.
Correct.
They looked at they were probably looking at churn rates. They're like, what the hell just happened? What did you expect to happen? Right?
It spiked since the announcement.
Legacy Moose, the legacy T-Mobile customer is the most price sensitive customer in the market.
100%. And by the way, I was talking about this with Tyrone. This showed the cracks. This showed the cracks of the facade, the mask of the T-Mobile quote unquote fanboy, right? The only reason why they're still with the company is because of the cheap price. Not because of the network, not because of the free stuff, because of the price.
So, good evening, everybody. First of all, I apologize. Sneed, Moose, Dennis, who just walked in. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's listening. Hope everybody's all right. It's a really, really good discussion so far. Sneed, I guess you have to catch me up on a little bit of what's been said, but is anybody surprised? Yeah, you guys surprised? I'm interested to hear what Tyrone had to say to Moose, if he doesn't mind, if you don't mind sharing, Moose, what Tyrone had to say. I mean, he's been pretty pro T-Mobile for as long as I can remember. I mean, this is kind of, as far as fanboy is concerned, I really don't like using that word. It doesn't really, whatever. But as far as people who are advocates and proponents of T-Mobile, I would rate him as pretty high on that list. What does he have to say about this, Moose?
No, he is definitely on the same page with all of us that T-Mobile's days are numbered now, right? Because of the massive backlash. He's been hearing it from the community, right? He's been hearing it from emails. He's been seeing it at the stores, right? Um, El Paso is very high market share T-Mobile, and even in that region, right? People are very upset. But to um the conversation that we had about the deceivert, right? We're gonna trademark that deceivert. You know, is very clean cut, right? You can't backtrack saying, "Oh no, it's only 1%," and then backtrack again saying, "Oh no, this was just a trial." No way,
Right.
impossible.
Nowhere in the document did it say 1% of accounts. Nowhere in the original document did it say, it was just going to be a test. All that came after the fact, right? It was literally days. So they were bombarded with calls. They were probably hit with some churn and too much heat, and they had to get their ass out the kitchen.
I'm one of those people who I don't have a problem with leaders pivoting when they see something clearly doesn't
That's
work.
not what this was, though, B.
Well, I'm not saying it was. I agree with what you guys are saying. I'm just trying to kind of draw that parallel and that comparison. So I don't have a problem with leaders. Hey, I implement something, it's not working, I pivot as quickly as I can. But to you guys' point, you got to own it. Hey, we wanted to do this. This was the purpose. We're going to go back to this. I get it, and sometimes that's difficult to do. But that's why CEOs and stuff make the big bucks. So I mean, at the end of the day, these are things that we've been talking about. I know I've been personally talking about it for forever now. It was only a matter of time before T-Mobile tried something like this. You can't give away the house forever. Eventually, you got to start playing ball. Eventually, you got to start investing in the network. Eventually, you got to become a fiber player. Eventually, you're gonna have to go to another spectrum auction and start buying stuff organically. You're not going to be able to get another stimulus package. I mean, eventually, you're going to have to start conducting business like a telco, which means it's going to require money. And I mean, honestly, if I was Seaford, I would have pressed forward. And I get it; it probably would have tanked stock for a little while, and it would have kind of probably tilted things back in the favor of Verizon and AT&T. I understand that, but the way that you're conducting business now isn't sustainable long term either. You gotta pick something. You gotta try to find a better balance in order to be able to invest into your business so that you can compete with the other guys who have no problem investing in their business. AT&T, they just released their quarterly financials for third. They had another great quarter. I mean, AT&T is cooking, man. I mean, to their credit, they are doing very well. They performed in the third quarter. I mean, that was a really good quarter for them. So if the competition has no issues with investing into their business via cash flow to the tune of almost $20 billion every year, and you got T-Mobile that can only muster 13 and then reduce it to 8. I mean, guys, sometimes even at the risk of growth, you have to do what's best for the business. I don't understand how that logic is wrong.
So I want to chime in on a few points. First, you mentioned to B's most recent thing. You mentioned T-Mobile needs to start acting like a carrier when it comes to certain things, like a telco company. What T-Mobile was proposing to do is very much not the standard status quo of how carriers replace legacy plans. Mm-hmm. Status quo in the space is typically one of two measures. Option A is the carrier leaves you on the existing legacy plan and just simply adds a rate increase like AT&T did with my unlimited elite plan, right? The $2.50 charge, or the Verizon adding charges, right? Or option B is they, gut the promos, and if you want to finance a phone, that's where they get you to move over. I guess there's a third option because AT&T used to do this in the past, but if you're going to move someone over to a new plan, you keep them at the same price. If you're going to move them over for whatever reason due to retirement purposes of the plan. But That's the least common I see. So that's the first part. Second part, in regards to people being price sensitive, I do think price sensitive obviously is like a big proponent of this, right? There are a lot of people out there that are like that. But let's also not forget that there are features and services that were offered on the legacy plans that are not available today. Unlimited hotspot on the OG One Plus plan, roaming perks that were important to consumers, legacy terms in regards to Simple Choice North American customers actually having unlimited roaming in Canada and Mexico that wasn't actually changed with one, like rewritten with the one plans. So there are things that can't be replaced and T-Mobile doesn't have a good alternative to. And those legacy customers that were, while they might be few and far between, power users for sure, but those customers that were paying for those special add-ons were generating more revenue for T-Mobile than even the new plans. The third thing I just want to say here is like T-Mobile is getting good, healthy revenue. Not rocking the boat is fine. In fact, the fact that these legacy customers on these legacy plans can't get financing deals on the phones, I would argue that they're probably, because they're not able to take advantage of a lot of the more existing promos, I would argue that they're probably a little bit more profitable for T-Mobile, assuming they don't have free lines. Free lines is the caveat here. And that's the thing that T-Mobile wants to focus on getting rid of from a revenue generation standpoint, which...
Dennis, that's wrong. Their ARPU on those plans is so low. So you can't say that they're more profitable when the ARPU is very low. The new T-Mobile customers are profitable. The old ones are not.
So if you nix free lines for a moment.
I can't.
Well, I just said
I can't.
Why?
Because it's all part of the legacy way of doing business. All those accounts, whether they have free lines or not, if the account generates 120 in revenue and it's 10 lines,
that's only if it's a free line deal, though. If you look at the legacy pricing minus the free lines, the pricing difference is not actually that different. The free lines is where the killer is, which is why I was going to say the thing that T-Mobile needs to focus on if they're so concerned about revenue is start making some money off the free lines. And it's a really simple fix. Just charge $5. $5 per free line. You roast the flog slowly, and you send out a disclaimer. You don't change the plan. You just say for customers that have free lines, we're going to start charging $5.
Yeah, but 80% of the accounts have multiple lines.
Multiple free lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, so $5 per free line.
I mean, your proposal is good. I don't object to it. I'm just looking at the dynamic of their customer base. Dennis, they've been used to free shit for a long time.
Well,
hold up. $5 a line is not good enough for me, and I'll tell you why. If they were able to change the military discount from 50% off to 40%, what's to stop them from giving 100% off of a line to only 50% off a line? What's to stop them?
There's nothing stopping them from doing things. I'm just trying to focus on slow roasting the
incremental, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do it $5 per line, right? The customers that are, really, really, really uber sensitive will either cancel those lines or they'll move somewhere else. Whoop-de-doo. But you're going to have probably the majority of them are probably going to stick around, right? Because even with that $5 increase, there's nothing out there on the market today that's going to be cheaper, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might even convert some people away. Like they might actually decide like, well, I stayed on this legacy plan because I had free lines, but now I'm going to get rid of them. They might even go over to one of the new plans.
Yeah, and they might get more stuff and be cool with that. And
yeah. But if you do it all too much all at once, you're going to get the flack, especially when the implementation requires calling in. Like T-Mobile should have known better. They didn't want their call centers to be slammed. They needed to provide a self-service.
Dennis, they had like 3 strikes on this. They did this all wrong.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
The fact that you couldn't opt out on the app, the fact that you had to call in.
I know why they wanted to call in. There's a very, very good reason why they wanted you to call in.
I know the reason.
Well, we saw the whole script.
No, not about the upsell. I'm not. That's of course. That's not what I'm talking about, though. The reason why they wanted folks to call into care was because it discourages them for even calling. because they know
That's an
that the wait times are going to be
inconvenience.
long.
Yeah. Right.
I get the reason. I know what they were betting on. I'm just saying that I know what they were betting on, but I'm saying as a business, right? That method was wrong because it gets more vocal. So customer can't reach out to carrier. Now they're blowing up over Twitter. Now they're blowing up over social media, right? That's what happens when they can't go to carrier. They start flagging reviews when they're angry, right? Like that's what happens. And then part two is that customer service is expensive. Customer service is very, very expensive. You're paying reps, buku bucks to stay on the phone to listen to a pissed off, disgruntled customer when you could have came up with a cheaper.
You know what's more expensive? Bad customer service that's inefficient.
That's true. That part too.
You know, when you have customer care fix problems in 5-10 minutes, life is good.
Yeah, but you're not gonna you're not gonna solve a disgruntled customer in 5-10 minutes. It's gonna take 5-10 minutes just to get them to calm down to the point where they're not irate, so you can actually put the sock code on, right?
Right.
So, look, I don't think T-Mobile needs to be doing the things that they're doing right now. I think T-Mobile is actually doing just fine. Like, if they weren't rocking the if they weren't rocking the boat, right? Like there's something to point out here, right? Acquiring customers is a very expensive endeavor. Each customer to acquire, I think, Moose B, correct me if I'm wrong, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like $2,500 to acquire a new customer for the carriers. And that's talking about the advertising spend, that's talking about the promotional spend on the financing of the phone that you have to put down to actually get them a free phone with like promos and stuff. All in, I think it's something around like 2,500 or something like that. And free lines, you're gonna have people like me who aren't even using the free line, right? It's just on my account, but it keeps me sticky. As all hell, right? For that, what if I get a kid down the road? I might put them on that line. Like, I'm just saying, like there is a way to look at it too, that you look at the free lines as a retention method in the same way that people years back, you can look at what we said when people were ragging on big cable for offering cell phone service, and I said, guys, you've got it all wrong. Mobile was there for them as a retention play. They don't care about making it profitable at this moment because it's a retention play. And over time, big cable did make mobile profitable. They got more subscribers, which let them negotiate better wholesale rates, and they were able to offer more. You weren't aware they got better wholesale rates with Verizon?
They renegotiated rates?
Yeah, like a while ago. I thought I told you.
What year?
Like 22.
Good for them. Go on.
Anyway, they were able to, because they were getting more subscriber growth and different factors, they were able to renegotiate rates.
There you go. Okay.
They were able to offer new tiers, more premium tiers where the profit margins were larger. They were able to do that organically and naturally. And then for the legacy customer, it didn't matter. They had the retention, like it was the retention play, right? Their bread and butter was the broadband. In the case of T-Mobile, mobile is their main core of their business. They want to keep them sticky. You keep a mobile customer, T-Mobile can sell them the fixed wireless. That can be their extra little ARPU boost right there. And then other products and services down the line, right? Keep a consumer happy as a T-Mobile consumer customer. You're going to have customers out there that have small businesses. They'll be like, well, gee willikers, my T-Mobile service sure is fantastic at a good price. I'm going to get this for my business employees. And then don't forget, in the enterprise space, enterprises are also ran by people. Gee whiz, I'm the new IT or sysadmin guy. Let me look at, oh my goodness, we're with Verizon paying this much money. Well, T-Mobile, I think can save the company some good money, and it looks like they have good service here, and they got this standalone 5G core that might enable some of my Internet of Things devices. There's opportunity for growth and other factors is the TLDR that I'm getting at here. Not doing it this way. This is like trying to squeeze a turnip. Like it's like trying to squeeze a turnip. You're doing it like all wrong. Hi, Yasmin.
They say hi, Yasmin.
What's up, Yasmin?
Everybody says hi, Yasmin. You're on my cable.
So I disagree a little bit. I think Dennis did make some good points, but I don't think you're squeezing blood out of a turnip by making a customer pay something for their service. They have a large amount of their customer base that pays nothing. So asking them to pay something is not blood out of a turnip. It's asking people to do what people do when they wake up. They pay for things that they want and need. That's not asking too much. And it's what T-Mobile needs in order to compete long term. They have done what they can with the stimulus packages and everything that they've gotten. Now they need to organically generate cash flow in order to compete long term. So asking people to pay for their service is not trying to squeeze blood out of a turnip. It's simply business. And so that's why I say, like, sometimes even at the expense of growth, you have to eventually find a balance between growth and profitability, because in the telco industry, it is extremely difficult to do both at the same time consistently at scale. Sometimes you have to choose, and it ebbs and flows, but sometimes you have to choose. And so T-Mobile,
You're
with
saying
the move that they made, like they chose to start making some money so that they can actually compete.
you're saying they were paying nothing, but nothing is when the customer leaves. That's when they're paying nothing, because every customer that has a free line has at least minimum two paid lines minimum. That is the requirement to getting a free line. You must have at least 2 paid lines.
That's true, but $100 though, Dennis. I mean, $100. That's not $100 for 4 lines.
We're using extremes here. Most people are not going to be the ones that are on Reddit that were super actively focusing on every single deal, maximizing every single thing, having connections in the industry, talking to their the reps to try to get insider discounts and all that other stuff. Most people aren't that. Most people are going to be, like 4 lines for like $150. Like most people are going to be more like around there. Yes, that's
still
lower.
super cheap.
Let me finish. Yes, that's lower than what modern day pricing is by a fair margin, especially if they're on like a premium offering, but it's not that ridiculously lower. It's a lot better than, prepaid revenue or MVNO revenue, and it's better than, honestly, it's better than like things, even like some things like essentials, right? Like T-Mobile was doing 4 lines of essentials for $100, right? I mean, obviously there's plus tax and stuff, but like that's not that terrible, right? And remember, a key caveat that I want to keep highlighting: these legacy plans aren't getting phone promos anymore, right? Like the pricing that exists today factors in the fact that the customer is going to be taking advantage of promos. If we're talking about, look, TLDR, if we're talking about cash flow, it is in T-Mobile's best interest to not bleed customers and continue to get the revenue versus doing something stupid to try to generate revenue in the short term, because it's going to backfire, make people angry, and you're going to see a revenue decline, and you're hurting the brand. If T-Mobile does things, like I said, slow and steady, charges like $5 per free line, right? People will still get pissed, but that'll bump the revenue up a lot. Meanwhile, also, they could still try to focus on getting new customers in on the new plans. And by doing this slow and steady approach, you can also potentially convert your existing customers over to the new plans in a more organic manner. But if there's a customer out there, maybe a me, who doesn't want to move off Magenta MAX, for example, or a legacy OnePlus customer that had the add-on for unlimited hotspot, if they want to stay on because they like the plan and they're just willing to pay whatever, then let them pay whatever. Keep them happy. Like it. I don't know.
But isn't that the same thing Verizon and AT&T got blasted for? Increasing prices on legacy plans. So pretty much what you're saying is,
if you remember,
do that instead.
I think if you remember, I think I said I'm not that worried about AT&T increasing prices on Elite back when we had a whole conversation about it.
Well, yeah, not just you, but I'm just saying, like, in general, there were a lot of people who showed disdain for that as well. So all I'm pretty much saying then is just that regardless of what T-Mobile does to increase revenue, which they clearly have to do, customers are going to be upset.
And
so
I also want to clarify, when we put blast, if there was any criticism I gave, I believe I specifically criticized the fact that it was done in a sneaky manner with bogus quote unquote fees. I think is what I would have touched on instead of just doing a flat out just saying like, yeah, we're raising the base rate. Get over it.
I mean, even when people do that, companies have done that and people have still been upset. There's no way, there's no great way to increase prices on customers. People are going to be upset regardless, which is why I said it's smart for T-Mobile to be thinking of ways to balance profitability with growth, because clearly the way that they're doing it,
you balance profitability with growth, and you get people to take new plans even though they're more expensive when the plans get better.
Agreed.
If the plans get worse, fuck the new plans.
Agreed.
If you would like to increase your ARPU, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, then make your plans better. Then because you sell plans, and part of the plan is the network, right? Primary, right?
And
so
a key thing to point out here, taking away something from an old plan and adding it back to a new plan is not making it better.
I agree 100%, but at the same time,
Verizon
okay. So at the same time, giving people more companies get where they need to go either, especially T-Mobile, who again they announced the capex is what, $8 billion this year. Come on, guys, how are they going to compete with AT&T and Verizon, who are spending double that plus?
T-Mobile is essentially, for all intents and purposes, pretty much done with their build out of 2.5 gigahertz for their personal goals, right? So it makes sense that capex would go down after the massive build out. Now, is that to say that I agree with it? No, I still think capex should be higher, because they could be adding more macros, they could be adding small cells, they could be deploying their C-band that they acquired.
Can I speak to that, Dennis?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think they should relax capex until they match Verizon and AT&T in coverage.
Well, like I just said, I agree with you. I'm just
right,
saying,
but that costs right.
But that costs money. That costs money, guys. Even if they kept it at 13 billion where it was before, that's still not close to what AT&T and Verizon are spending on there. Remember, they're still building out their network too. So
yeah,
the
but
lead that they have,
billion, it's pretty close to the wireless capex of AT&T and Verizon. It
is not close.
It is though, because
it is not. We're talking about
capex. Hold on, AT&T and Verizon's capex isn't just being used for the wireless network. It's being used for their fiber, and other aspects that is included in that capex.
But both of those are growing at both companies. AT&T is spending on their fiber network, not just consumer to the prim or anything. But
right, but what we're saying is T-Mobile they don't have that endeavor. They don't have that business expense. So if their wireless capex is 13 billion, wirelessly, not owner's economics, but wirelessly, they could probably create more parity in coverage with Verizon and AT&T. They won't own any fiber because they're obviously not spending enough to invest in fiber. So I get it. That's what makes Verizon's capex 18 billion and AT&T's capex 22 billion. They're investing 50% more money because they're investing in fiber,
which is the more expensive thing to invest in anyway, from a cost standpoint.
But isn't T-Mobile at a disadvantage because they don't have that owner's
100%,
economic?
100%.
So then why?
Hold on, they're in a disadvantage in the long term when we're talking about things like.
Oh, right now they're in a disadvantage right now, Dennis.
Yeah,
I don't know. 10 gigabit backhaul is pretty cheap. Like you can get that a dime a dozen from.
Okay, can you give me can you give us an arbitrary number, Dennis, for a monthly cost
for gig backhaul? You're probably
give me an arbitrary number, just whatever number. Go ahead.
Probably talking like $1,000.
$1,000. How much is 10 gig?
10 gig. You're probably looking at something like 5.
So OpEx just went up 5x. Why are you pretending like that's not meaningful?
Exactly, man. I don't understand. I mean, this is. It's math, and you're multiplying that by several thousands of sites, tens of thousands of sites,
Hold,
and you're
hold,
saying, and you're also saying that tens of
hold,
thousands of numbers of sites should
hold,
increase.
hold on. Let me explain my point. In the long term, T-Mobile was at a disadvantage, and by long term, I'm talking about like greater than the next like 5 years in the future. So in the long term, T-Mobile was at a disadvantage when it comes to things like operational costs, etc., right? Like having the agility to ramp up backhaul in key critical locations as they gain more spectrum and need to from a capacitive standpoint. In the short term, it's not like they're at a major disadvantage because most cell sites, most macros are still being served by gig. Right now, with T-Mobile's assets as well, there's not in a lot of places, there's not necessarily.
Gotta call you out, Dennis. You're wrong on that one, buddy.
Okay, is a customer going to really notice the difference between 700 meg and
Dennis,
1 gig?
that's not what I'm saying, but you can't just say things that aren't true. Verizon owns 55-60% of the backhaul running to their tower sites. That's a
Okay.
majority. Let's not say that a majority are on 1 gig or not owned by the company.
I didn't say they weren't owned by the other competitors. I just said the majority were on 1 gig.
That's wrong.
The majority of cell sites aren't connected still with 1 gig backhaul.
No, they're on 10 gig. A majority means more than 50%. Dennis, do you know where most of the macros are, where a majority of macros are? They're in metro areas. I don't need to hear
by the
about
way,
geographical range.
Chime said my pricing was pretty on point, $5K for 10 gig, and I was a little shy on the gig pricing. But
No,
hey,
when it comes to that stuff, you know it, Dennis. I always trust in you when it comes to those numbers. But a majority of macros are in metro and suburban areas, not rural, where it's difficult to get fiber.
That number will always increase, and it will always be a bill that they have to pay out because they don't have any owner's economics with respect to fiber. So while it may sound, of course, arbitrary or small or whatever the case may be, you use whatever adjective it is that you want. But $5,000 multiplied by 50,000 sites, for example, 12 times a year, and that 50,000 sites continues to grow, it is a number that you have to look at, especially when your capex is already lower than everyone else's.
In the long term, but what's the cost to actually do the fiber yourself? What's the upfront investment before you actually break even on that cost?
Of course, it's always more expensive to start something. You're absolutely right about that. I can see that point. You're absolutely right. But how do they grow revenue as a company as the growth starts to slow down? As the prices increase, as customers churn, whatever the case may be, you have to be able to offer. Go ahead.
It's clear what they need. It's clear what they need to do. This is why I said in the long term, like greater than 5 years. The companies that are investing in fiber right now and participating in owners' economics have an advantage in the long term, especially when we're talking about bleeding edge or higher capacitive speeds, because the investment will pay for itself. But I'm saying in the short term, so within these next 5 years, right now it's not. I'm not saying that T-Mobile doesn't need to get started on it. I'm just saying it's not the most pressing matter, right? Gig is cheap and continuing to get cheaper on the enterprise side, and 10 gig also has come down in cost significantly since 5 years ago. I know 5,000 sounds like a lot, but it's in the enterprise space for enterprise backhaul, it's really not a lot. And mind you, that number that I threw out is not accounting for markets, right? Different markets are going to have different pricing for backhaul, right? You're going to get much cheaper pricing for backhaul in a place like Washington, D.C. than you are going to be in, Pennsylvania.
So Dennis, if it was cheap, then why didn't T-Mobile, when they launched N41, why didn't they put 10 gig circuits right away?
Because it's still cheaper for gig.
Thank you.
Exactly. That's the point. Then it's like
the company's going to do what's in their best interest, right? Like,
right.
Look, Verizon.
Bro, we got clucking going on. Who's got the clucking?
Verizon still has sites that don't even have gig backhaul. Band 66, band 13.
So what?
Yeah, you care to guess how many of those, what percentage of their sites don't have a gig?
I have no clue. I won't even claim to know a clue. I'm just saying my point is that a company is going to do whatever's in their best interest. If they can get away with paying less or doing less, they'll do less.
If it serves their business, but eventually that 1 gig backhaul isn't going to serve their business, so they have to be on some sort of upgrade schedule.
Right. I'm just saying for right now, this moment, T-Mobile, the macro-based mid-band network that's not doing millimeter wave and is only really using N41 and not C-band, there's not going to be a big difference for them between gig and 10 gig unless there's with the exception of certain markets and certain target regions. Like I'm saying, they don't have to have every single cell site on 10 gig. Like the cell site that's serving the small town of 600 people where my folks live doesn't need 10 gig backhaul. Gig is plenty. In fact, that's a big upgrade of what it was. It was 100 meg before that. So
Okay. All right. So I can see, I respect where you're coming from, but long term, which is what I originally was talking about before, like long term, T-Mobile can't continue to compete, spend
I
$8
agree.
billion on a network.
I agree.
So they
Interesting.
have to start eventually increasing revenue, because guess who else has started and continues to start? AT&T is doing it. Look at what they just posted in the third quarter.
It's
Verizon
interesting.
for all the I'm sorry about that, Moose. Verizon for all the negativity, they haven't had issues with revenue. Nobody's been able to say, "Oh, Verizon ain't making no money." They may not have had the consumer growth that everyone continues to talk about, but they're making money. I mean, AT&T's making money. It's eventually T-Mobile has to start making something too. Go ahead, Moose. I'm sorry.
Really quick. It's interesting because once T-Mobile had the N41 deal done, the merger, guess who was the first call they made to make a multi-billions of dollars wholesale deal on ADI? Guess who it was?
Snaps, what is that?
Guess who it was?
That's perfect.
Guess who it was?
He's like the hamburger.
Waka waka waka.
That's
Cue the
right.
music.
They literally in 2020, I remember this. They begged for a cheaper pricing because they were going to do X tens of thousands of sites nationwide with 10 gig backhaul. But it was too expensive for them. Way too expensive for them. You guys want to know? You guys want to guess how much it would be per month?
Hit it, Moose.
Okay. Per year, it's upwards of $2 billion.
OpEx
OpEx.
in one city,
No, nationwide. But if you think about it, it's massive. That bill, man. God damn. I can't believe it.
It is what it is. You ain't closing the doors tomorrow, right?
Billions.
It's bad. It was going to be 5 originally.
Yo, Zero Cool, what do you think of the picture?
It's a fair representation. Hey, what does it's McDonald's and T-Mobile, right? They're both Trick Ronalds.
Oh, they're tricking.
They're tricking. Yeah,
T-Mobile. I heard a leak that T-Mobile might be raising Netflix prices.
Uh-huh.
Does Carlos have to continue to be right? Do we have to keep going through this, or should we just rip the Band-Aid off?
That's why the chickens are clucking right now.
Just keep on clucking.
Bro.
Yeah, we got the thong majoralis right here.
Everybody wants more chicken, like B says.
People, I really hate that though, right? Like it. Yes, people would love more free stuff, but I don't think the majority of people like. I'm content with my AT&T Elite, right? It went up $250 or whatever per line whenever ago. But you don't hear me complain about AT&T. I'm always happy. I'm content. I'm lucky.
This is a PSA on that Elite plan because I did test this out on my own.
You're saying they're killing it. I'm going to leave.
No. No. The PSA is you only need one line to stay on Elite.
It depends on which Elite you're on, though, because the old OG Elite plan didn't have the mix and match, Moose.
No. I'm talking about the mix and match Elite. But the Unlimited Your Way Elite, right? The predecessor to the premium plan that is currently in market right now. You only need one line to have the HBO Max, just one.
Yep.
That's okay.
So
My folks can. My mom when she plays RuneScape can enjoy the highest priority on AT&T's network that a consumer can get, and I'll keep my line just fine. And my dad, who doesn't use a lick of data, can enjoy that elite line too. We're happy to pay what we pay for AT&T Elite. I'm very content with it. I will not touch it because I know AT&T will probably mess it up, just like T-Mobile messes things up. Although AT&T would probably fix it. I've actually talked to them these past 2 days. One was because of actually a billing thing. I had to update my thing to a debit card. I didn't get the auto pay credit applied correctly. And the second part was an issue with unlocking my mom's old Note 8. But which that old Note 8
the super chat here.
Jesus. Note 8.
Big shout out to S Blue Tech. Appreciate the super chat, my friend. $19.99. You know how much chicken that can get you, bro, at McDonald's, man?
Go to Popeyes. They got better chicken.
He said free chicken is over.
More chicken. I tell you, you guys are very, very welcome for me coining that phrase. Because I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. Like everything Los just said, he's correct. We've talked about it before. Yes, people do want free stuff, and they do want to pay the least amount possible for the most. I mean, that's what we all want. I get it, but there has to be balance. There has to be balance, and that's what T-Mobile is seeking right now, some balance, because they know long term, even in the medium term, they're not going to be able to compete. AT&T is not playing. Verizon is not playing. People can say what they want. Yes, I know chinks in the armor. I get it, but they're not playing.
But let's talk about AT&T.
Before you do, I just want to real quick to Moose. Moose, as far as Note goes, that's her old phone. She has a Note 20 that she actually uses. I'm putting the Note 8 on a Mobile X line for her because she.
I want to get her on the. I want to get her the S24 Ultra, man. I want to get her on the S24 Ultra.
You're gonna get her one, my mom.
I want to get her on the S24 Ultra.
Well, her birthday is in December. It's the day after Christmas.
But you have to wait 2 more months, man. At least 2 more months.
If you got connections and want to gift my mom, I mean,
that's right. I got
her the Note 20 for Mother's Day. So back in then.
All right, guys. AT&T raises full year adjusted EBITDA, free cash flow guidance driven by continued sub and revenue growth.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at these damn numbers. Moose, cue the music.
I was ready for it right now.
Cue the music, Moose. Yes. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Third quarter results. Revenues up 1% year over year. Cash from operating activities up 0.2 billion or 2.4% year over year. Free cash flow, ladies and gentlemen, $5.2 billion. All you AT&T investors out there. Moose, what did I tell you this morning pre-market?
Oh, it's gonna be big.
What did I tell you? What were the numbers I gave you?
Oh, you were like, this thing is gonna blow up. If it doesn't, these people are morons. That's what you said.
I literally told Moose it was gonna pop between 5 and 10%. It peaked at 8.5%, and it finished the day, closed the market day at 6.5%.
Wow.
So there you go.
I think that's too low. People are crazy.
Well, for one day, Moose, for one day, B, you got to be a little bit, reasonable.
Agreed. I mean, it could continue to rise. That's true. But I just hats off to AT&T, seriously, for a really, really solid quarter. I mean, nobody's going to argue with those numbers. They guided up as they should. They guided up as they should. They're a formidable carrier. They really, really are. They're a solid carrier. They are. I got to give credit where credit's due.
Before we proceed, let me address the super chat here. My brother Ciprioni's in the house. He said, "Hope everyone is doing well." My question is, will the Pixel 8 work well on FirstNet? Absolutely. No worries about the Pixel 8 Pro.
In my opinion, the real price of the stock for AT&T should be somewhere around the $25 to like $30 range.
Yeah, both them and Verizon are vastly undervalued, and it's ridiculous. But again, the market is tripping.
I'm happy with these quarterly results. This is good stuff. I like
Absolutely.
Zero. Let me go through the numbers, and then I'll bring you back in here.
Mhm.
All right, 468,000 postpaid phone net adds. ARPU growth, historically low levels of churn. I think the postpaid churn came in 0.79.
About 7, 8, I thought.
Maybe. Well, maybe it's down here at the bottom. The ARPU I think increased by 2% Moose or 4%.
I have to go back to the numbers. I don't have
I
it
know
in
it.
front.
I know it increased, so that I know that's on the positive side. Fiber added almost 300,000 net adds. Consumer broadband revenues are up almost 10%. AT&T Fiber revenues had a growth of 27%. 8 million AT&T Fiber customers. They doubled the customer base in the last 4 years. Internet Air appears to be a success. 30 more locations coming by the I think they said November timeframe. 200 million pops of the 5G mid-band by the end of the year. They're at 190 million right now. They're still on track to hit the 30 million plus fiber locations by 2025. We're looking at what was it? I'm looking for where'd they go? Okay, here it is. Yeah. Okay. So the total wireless net adds were 6.6 million, 550,000 postpaid, 468 were phone, 48,000 losses in tablets. I'm wondering if that's just voluntary disconnects. 130,000 other net adds. That might be watches. 26,000 prepaid net adds. So Cricket's doing fine. Postpaid churn, phone churn was 0.79. Prepaid churn 2.78. That'll probably be industry best. Postpaid phone ARPU $56. FirstNet connections now exceeds 5.3 million. I don't think Verizon can say anything anymore. I think this probably puts them past Verizon for first responder connections. Business wireline seems that was the weakness for the company, and it didn't really move the needle any which way. So whatever that means. They had some DSL losses, but they didn't give us the number. So really, it was a lot of positive. So you remember how in Q1 the AT&T stock was devastated because of the free cash flow? Well, here they are exceeding 5 billion in free cash flow and then guiding up to 16.5. So that means let's do the math. 1 billion in Q1, 4.2 billion in Q2 puts it at 5.2 plus another 5.2 puts them at 10.4. Moose, we're looking at over 6 billion free cash flow for Q4 projected.
Easily done.
That's
I
crazy.
I have a very strong feeling that after Pascal's comments, which is really interesting, he was saying, I don't like adjusting the guidance because realistically speaking, he's like, what we present to the street is
Not what we internally
is
expect.
not what internally we expect.
Right.
They're expecting 17 plus. Jesus.
Yeah, if they get 7 billion in free cash flow, the stock is going to soar. It's like the conversation we're having in January is going to be absurd. I guess we have to wait and see what Verizon does, right? We got to see what their cash flow is going to be. What's up, Dennis?
Can we just touch on two things that are very much worth pointing out? One, the Latin American growth I find interesting because I feel like that area, we talk about growth for these wireless providers, right, and wanting to generate revenue. For a long time, AT&T was not thriving in Mexico like at all. The fact that they're starting to see actual revenue growth down there is very exciting because I feel like that's the market, like a market that's totally untapped.
Total wireless net adds 65,000, 17,000 prepaid, 55,000 postpaid.
I mean, hey, look, it's
Yeah, but
growth.
isn't it usually the other way, Moose, where the prepaid outdoes the postpaid?
In many quarters, that has been the case. And you know what's interesting, guys, that I should point out? This quarter and last quarter, and definitely in Q4, should be seeing a lot more prepaid numbers because of all the migrants that have been uh, going into the United States. And that's very evident, right, of how many more folks are on the network because but in the border cities, the average download speed has gone down significantly.
Oh
Okay.
wow. Yeah.
So that means that there are a lot of folks in the country now more than ever before. But that it's a prepaid thing, right? You're right. It's prepaid would have gone up. So, more to come.
And then the second thing I just want to touch on, which is this insane number, data in demand, 649.3 petabytes average daily network traffic, a 19% increase network traffic year over year.
So
Jeez.
is it safe to say that 10 gig fiber is a must?
Well, I'm assuming this stat is including everything that goes through team
So like
AT&T's
like
pipe.
Everything on the network.
Yeah, but think about it, right? It's the per user increase in data usage, per household data usage, right? It's mobility, it's wireline, it's the whole shebang, right?
It's every DAS. So just to give you some clarity, it's every DAS system, it's every Internet Air, every fiber node, every fiber household, anything that uses AT&T's internet. That's how many petabytes are being passed through the systems.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That is so much traffic. That is so
So
much traffic.
I'm excited for AT&T. They definitely started off the earnings report for the third quarter, or the earnings season for this particular quarter for the telco industry really, really well, and set the bar really, really well. They're not the only ones that increased guidance. I know Verizon did the same thing, um, which is good. And I think the water, the tide rose and it kind of increased, the tide for everybody. All the boats rose because I know AT&T, of course, their stock went up. Verizon's did as well, and I think T-Mobile's did too. So what that indicates to me is that the consumer is still spending, of course. So I expect Verizon to post positive financial results as well. I'm looking at what they were able to accomplish in 3Q 2022, and their revenue was still industry leading. It was 34 billion. So the fact that AT&T was able to get to 30, that's a solid and positive sign for their business. And I think the industry overall is going to experience or report positive financials. T-Mobile will as well. So it's a good thing for the industry as a whole. The consumer obviously is still spending. So
All right. Well, for Zero Cool's take, man, the stank is back. He is back. He is back.
The
Oh man.
stank is back.
Look,
Damn.
and here's
oh
let me tell you
god.
why. You take a look at their mobile data growth, okay? I predict here's a Zero Cool prediction that their fiber subscribers will be even with their mobile subscriber, ads. Okay. It's about 2,000 to 5,000, 100,000 right now.
Hmm.
I think that's going to even out, especially during next quarter. We see their fiber build going like crazy, right? So you can, and I can see a lot of this being a triple play, more triple plays as well, right? The customer needs the fiber, they need the wireless service, stuff like that, right? So this is great. This is good to see. Um, these are great numbers. I'm very encouraged by this. I cannot wait for the next quarter. But yeah, the cash
I don't know if you
flow
guys
is
know this, but
amazing.
next quarter is going to be bigger than this one.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think they're if they can really match their fiber build to their wireless subscriber count, game over. You know what I mean? So, and they're heading in that trajectory. They're heading in that direction, right? So, yeah, I'm very encouraged by this quarter, and can't wait for the next one.
I'm calling it right now. Next quarter, AT&T does over 1 million postpaid phone net ads.
Yes,
Damn.
yes, bring it. More the better. More
What
take it from the
what's your
top.
process? What's your thought process on that, Dennis?
Well, it's the holiday season, Black
Mhm.
Friday,
Gotcha.
always very popular. There's a lot of people that have been holding out for upgrades on the iPhone, which is, AT&T's the iPhone network, and AT&T's also running like aggressive promotional marketing and advertising behind that. I think that I think that iPhones are going to sell really well again for AT&T, combined with the fact that from a pricing standpoint, AT&T, ironically enough, is one of the cheaper options in the market. Like, I know Verizon's been running some promos themselves to make themselves cheaper on the similar lines. I was happy to take advantage of it, but AT&T is doing a better job right now from the ads that I've been seeing online to communicate their new price, or quote unquote new pricing, and their promos. And I think they're going to see some great, strong success in that endeavor.
All right, so I have a topic worth discussing here. The star of the show today for AT&T was the free cash flow, right? Verizon had a 2022 number of free cash flow at 14 billion, which was a decline of 27% from 2021. I'm guessing their end of year this year should be better because of the relaxed CapEx, right? So I don't know how much higher it'll be, but this might be the first time in a long time where AT&T ends up with more free cash flow in a calendar year than Verizon. It might happen. I'm not saying it will. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just looking at Verizon's free cash flow last year was 14 billion. It was like flat 14 billion. So if they end up around 15 or 16 billion, if they reaccelerate, but AT&T comes in at 16 and a half or 17 billion, I can't remember a year where that happened.
2007 was the last time that happened.
When AT&T had more free cash flow than Verizon?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I was going to say I can't remember a time in my channel's existence. Wow.
And keep in mind, and I know we've been saying this, the layoffs are not stopping. So this is only going to accelerate the free cash flow. I'm letting you guys know this right now. 2023 was not the end all be all for layoffs. 2024 is going to be equally as aggressive. The goal, I believe, is going to be below 100,000 employees by 2025. Very lean, extremely lean company.
By the way, I just want to touch on the comment real quick. I think everyone on this panel can all agree Dish is the worst network out of all the carriers. Can we agree on this?
No, I don't agree with that.
Oh, come on, Sneed.
I don't agree either.
You've used Project Genesis. You can't tell me with a straight face.
I have much more problems with T-Mobile than Dish.
Bro, because Vonar's not live in your market yet. It'll be live, I think, the end of this month. I can't remember the list. I have to look at the list again. But
I had a video call the other day on a Google Meet with a YouTube rep. Flawless for an entire hour. I can't do video calls on T-Mobile. Yeah, I can't do that on T-Mobile. I can't do a FaceTime call on T-Mobile. Dennis, you've seen it.
I know. I mean, I have seen it. Yeah.
I mean, I was right next to the tower. It was literally like a fifth of a mile away.
And by the way, that's why I always will say this. If Ookla and all these other the testing agencies change their criteria for network quality based on speed, we have a problem. Because nobody cares about speed. Nobody should care about speed. They should care about the reliability. They should rely on the fact that what Sneed is saying, okay? The video call is not stable, okay? That's a routing problem. That's a lot of issues there. And by the way, one of the things in the same, what Sneed is sharing right now, all the way at the bottom, 190 million people covered by C-band. Nobody cares. People are literally on LTE, and they're still joining a carrier that just has LTE in that area. They don't care. They care about the reliability.
Speed.
Let's talk about that.
Speed only matters. I was just gonna say, speed only matters if it's not enough to allow a user to do the task. And generally speaking, I would say that it's like 25 meg or greater is good enough.
All right, let's discuss these topics from CEO John Stankey, the big stank himself. He said, we have managed, corralled, and controlled and stabilized our expenses. We continue with our subscriber additions, which are premium customers, high-quality customers that are accretive ads. He said, this is what happens when you produce free cash flow. We've been able to solidify smarter spending. We're growing our revenues. $3 billion decrease in net debt. Customers are begging us for fiber. We're now in phase 2 of our fiber deployments. We keep and grow our customers. And then he took shots at Verizon. Shot number 1. We chose to spend $30 billion on spectrum and invest heavily on our fiber, not $50 billion on spectrum and then invest in a depreciating asset. He was talking about fixed wireless access.
Excuse me? All right. I'm sorry. Continue. That was a stupid comment. Continue.
See, this is where the Verizon thongs come in because they don't agree. Because now
Well, the
it's getting
AT&T
real.
thong, the head AT&T thong was wrong. So yeah, I did come in and disagree. Yeah, I did.
AT&T
That was a stupid comment. No, they're not playing the long game. No, they're
Yes, they
politicking because
are. Yes, they
they're
are.
politicking because they lost the 5G race for
Yo.
Spectrum, and they're trying to backtrack and trying to put lipstick on a pig because they don't have enough Spectrum to say they're the Spectrum leader.
playing the long
Let me
game.
chime in.
Going
Let me
right
chime in.
now.
Let me chime in. Let me chime
Not
in.
the long game.
Let me chime in. I think the statement that AT&T said when it comes to acquiring spectrum is not wholehearted. However, the second part of it about focusing on fiber is truth. Fiber is the long-term solution than fixed wireless. Fixed wireless is a band-aid solution. It will have its time, but it will not compete with fiber. Fiber is the gold standard.
But when did Verizon ever say they were only focusing on fixed wireless? Are they not also expanding their fiber network for Fios and also their One Fiber program?
They just now put out an announcement they're hiring 1,800 technicians. So yes, they are looking to expand fiber. And thank you, Verizon, for finally hiring some techs. But they're not putting in the same amount of effort that AT&T is in this fiber build out.
Let me talk.
That is
numbers,
a farce. That is not true. That is a farce.
Numbers. Let me talk some numbers.
It's just not true. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So here's what Stanky did, right? And I understood his vision. He saved $11 billion by splitting the auctions. He got more bang for his buck by going 40 megahertz of DoD and 3450 frequency and getting 80 to 100 megahertz of the C-band 3700. Now, is that the ideal? Is it ideal to split your channel, right, between two frequencies within the same band? Clearly, it's not, because the Verizon performance and spectral efficiency within that N77 channel is better. But AT&T clearly has looked at it from a cost of operation standpoint. They said, okay, so we're not going to have the fastest 5G or mid-band 5G, but look what they're able to produce: a competent network, a quality network that is fast enough, and their customers don't ask for more from the network. The network does more than enough, right? Now, Verizon, they've got a different approach to networking. When it comes to what they wanted to do with C-band, it is absolutely their future. It is absolutely it's their golden child, right? So they're going to squeeze every bit of efficiency out of those assets. It's just different. It's just different. Yeah, they were like, we got to go contiguous. We're going deep, right? They went balls deep in C-band, bro.
We're gonna milk ants.
C-band is Verizon's new band 13.
They're milking ants, baby.
They're gonna milk it. Yep.
So let's be honest. Let's be honest. AT&T did what they did out of necessity, not because they were trying to outsmart anybody. They didn't have any choice. They didn't have the funds to outbid Verizon. That's
they wanted to pay down their debt and still get enough assets to remain viable, right?
Exactly. So that's what they did out of necessity. It wasn't oh, we're outsmarting you. No engineer worth their salt is going to say two bands that aren't contiguous. Oh, that's better because we spent less. No, you couldn't afford to spend more, so you bought what you could afford. That's what you did.
Well, but
So
they'd
now
be
you're
adding.
putting lipstick. Say again.
They could have gotten more C-band, but they would have had to spend so much. It would have been more on the balance sheet.
Exactly. Would have had to go in debt even more than they already are.
They
They
did go into debt
decided.
30 billion for C-band and DoD. That is confirmed. They went into debt for
Very
that. They
true.
did not have
Very true.
cash to do it. Right.
But not only do they not have a contiguous midband for their 5G, but they also have less overall spectrum in the midband as well.
It's
So
not that much of a difference.
It's not. It's not.
it, but
It's not that
but it
much
is.
less.
But I'm
They're-
not
they're-
saying it's a huge, but it is less, and we do know that there are going to be more people on that band. Look, if fixed wireless wasn't a thing that was viable, then why is AT&T getting in that game all of a sudden? Guys,
Well,
that's politicking. That's what Stanky did with that first comment. And I'm not saying the other ones don't have validity, but the first one is all politics. And I have no problem standing on that hill by myself
Yeah,
with
yeah,
respect to
but
everybody else. But it's
fixed wireless is essentially like the modern day version of what fancy DSL could have been, right? Like cable right now, right? Cable right now is able to do 200 meg upload, 250 if you count the over provisioning, and 2 gig down. And that's on DOCSIS 3.1. Not even.
Wait, did Dennis say this? C-band is the new band 13.
Yeah, I was.
he didn't mean it like. He didn't mean it
Whoa,
like
whoa,
that.
whoa, whoa,
He
whoa,
didn't mean it
whoa,
like
whoa!
that.
Dennis, you did not say that.
I was saying it in the sense that Verizon is gonna. You were talking about Golden Child, and Verizon's gonna eke everything they can out of it. Verizon eked the hell out of Band 13. They're gonna eke the hell out of N77.
But why wouldn't they? Well, I mean, why wouldn't they? They spent $52 billion for it. Why wouldn't they do that?
Going back to fixed wireless talk for a second. Comcast DOCSIS 3.1 already doing 200 meg upload, 250 with over provisioning, and 2 gig down. Just DOCSIS 3.1. We know symmetrical over DOCSIS is going to happen. Fiber already doing symmetrical. Fiber, literally, if we're talking about AT&T offering like 20 gigs in certain circumstances to consumers, like blazing fast. Fixed wireless is, and I'm going to say this right now, never at scale going to be offering multi-gig symmetrical speeds. Period. There's just not enough spectrum. There's just not enough spectrum to do it consistently for every household and every subscriber. They might
But
be able
that's
to
not
do
the
like,
goal. But that's not the goal. Like I don't recall anybody, whether it was T-Mobile or Verizon, nobody ever said the goal is to offer the same types of speeds as fiber. Nobody said that. So
the goal is to get like a gig. I know what the goal is. The goal is to get like a gig down and maybe like 100 meg up. That's their goal. But
that's not necessarily true. The goal is to get a better product than what DSL can offer, which is what significant portions of the country have had to deal with from AT&T and even from Verizon.
Well, if
so the goal is to improve that customer.
If the benchmark is just to give a better product than what DSL can offer, then shucks, satellite, HughesNet, man, HughesNet's been doing that for years. I mean, they've been giving
if that was the case, then why is HughesNet a dying company? It can't possibly be the case.
That's the analogy that I'm getting at here. Just offering something better than DSL, a 30-year-old technology, is not going to cut it. Like,
then why is it growing? Then why is fixed wireless access taking big cables much money?
One simple answer: price and price alone.
Okay, price, and also it works. It works better than DSL
for now.
And I'm not. You're absolutely right. But even if it goes from 300 megs down to 100 megs down, it's still better than DSL service.
Yeah. Right. So the goal here is a gig right now. Eventually, when C-band is nationwide, the goal is actually going to be multi-gig speeds. We're talking about at least the goal is to be at least up to 3 gigabytes. But as far as AT&T, we talked about earlier, they do have a good mid-band portfolio. They're able to use segregation techniques, and configurations to get that 1 gigabyte speed, just like Verizon. Even though Verizon, yes, is a little bit better, but again, with fixed wireless, it goes back to the point I keep on making. we're in a multi-gig era, right? They're not going to be happy with just capping it at 300 megabytes. Eventually, that cap is going to be removed, and the service will be multi-gig. As we say, the C band is the band 13. Well, guess what? It's going to be like that nationwide, and I guarantee you're going to have multi-gig speeds on fixed wireless, especially when standalone is done. Think about it, guys, from a network perspective. This is the whole purpose of standalone, to have symmetric downlink and uplink. Well, the only way you can do that nationwide, and this is another reason why Verizon spends so much money. Hold on, the reason why Verizon spends so much money on C-band is to blanket C-band, just like they did with band 13, across the entire country, and you will have that multi-gig symmetrical speed when standalone is out.
Yeah, it'll require full duplex if you want to do it. But I'm going to tell you right now,
of course, yeah.
it's a shared resource, right? Like Comcast, since the inception of DOCSIS 3.1, had 10 gig of bandwidth per node for download speeds, right? But you didn't see Comcast offering 10 gig download speeds to any given customer because it's a shared resource, right? Same thing with macros, but on steroids. Also, really quickly to chime, Comcast at my house, Pittsburgh, and many other markets have been getting the updated mid splits, as well as Spectrum doing the mid splits. Spectrum, Comcast, they're doing 200 meg upload when they got the mid split upgrades.
I think MS is right, bro. Most cable companies that are without a competitor end up falling in reliability. It's pretty common, and that really is the bigger issue. I think most people understand the technology is far superior, but the real issue becomes, oh, hey, I don't have a competitor. I don't need to maintain. I don't need to upgrade. I don't need to repair. I don't need to reinvest. It's just us.
That was big cable's downfall.
What happens when we're talking 5 years, 10 years? Let's do 5 years down the road, right? Let's envision the market, right? 5 years down the road, Verizon decides to still focus on fixed wireless as their main piece of the bread and butter to generate revenue and utilize capacity on the network. Yes, they're expanding fiber a little bit, but not because they're expanding fiber, but not consumer fiber in any meaningful amounts compared to AT&T, right?
That's not true.
I agree with the statement on Dennis, because in order for you to get to that level of expansion, if Verizon is not interested in Frontier, they're not going to be able to ramp up to the levels of what Frontier and AT&T are doing. Those are the top two fiber expansion companies right now.
And mind you, Frontier is a lot of old Verizon markets to begin with that they sold off. So anyway,
let me just tell you, Comcast, okay, and Charter, they're putting more fiber in the ground than what Verizon is right now.
Is that because they're perhaps behind on their fiber build because they haven't been upgraded the last 2 years?
That's because they're upgrading to DOCSIS 4.0 and they need the fiber in the ground. That's why.
And hold on a second. Comcast,
so they're behind on their build.
They're not behind. Comcast has been putting fiber into the ground for literally decades.
All right. So the whole reason why fixed wireless access is taking off is right on the screen, because Comcast and in some places AT&T and Spectrum and all these places didn't care about the customers that they didn't have competition in the areas where there's no competition. So I don't understand what we're talking about. Why are we lying to each other right now? Well,
we're not lying to each other.
Let me use a different
verb. The original
verb.
statement was,
why are we gaslighting?
We're not
come on, guys.
The original point that got us down this rabbit hole was that I said that the second part of Stanky's statement about fiber being like the main focus was the right statement, and then that's how we ended up getting down this big old rabbit hole.
Okay.
Because B was like, well, what about fixed wireless or whatever? Like
that's not what I said. It's not what I said. What I said was the reason why they focused on fiber is because they couldn't focus on wireless because they lost the spectrum race to Verizon. So they did the only other thing they could do to pivot. That's what they did. They pivoted.
Let's agree here, guys. We can all agree on no matter what technology it is, FDBA, cable, or fiber, it's all going to have multi-gig speed.
I'm just saying, picture 5 years from now, right? We're 5 years in the future. Comcast and Cable Co. They've done DOCSIS 4. They're offering 2 gig symmetrical to consumers and the major PEAs that they happen to serve. fiber, fiber expands. AT&T is doing their BlackRock deal. Fiber, consumer fiber from AT&T, crazy expansions. Fios does their little bit of small expansions in their Northeast, densifying those select places.
Look, this is how we're gonna end this because we gotta pivot. Listen, man.
Hold up.
Fiber
What?
is filet mignon. All right. Cable is like Salisbury steak. All right. Fixed wireless access is hamburger.
No, fixed wireless access is mystery meat.
No,
meat,
it's
you don't know.
Oh,
hamburger.
stop it.
It's
Come on, man.
hamburger.
Fixed wireless is mystery meat because you don't know what you're gonna get.
And then
depending on your location.
T-Mobile fixed wireless access is baloney.
Well, I
I'll say this.
I guess everybody's investing in mystery meat because AT&T has jumped into that game right along with Verizon and T-Mobile, and they didn't do that by
Listen,
mistake.
They're
They did it
betting
because they didn't have a
money.
choice.
Mignon,
Listen,
all right?
let's go back to the OG. Companies will do what's in their best interest. They're making extra money off of fixed wireless while they can because it doesn't cost them that much extra to do so. It's using unused capacity on the network.
Then why trash the concept? Then why trash the concept?
However, 5 years in the future, right, when fiber and cable and cable's offering a very much fiber-like experience, when those two things exist and insert need of the future that requires this better connectivity, fixed wireless starts to look a lot like DSL did, where DSL kind of just got blown to the wayside.
Listen,
Yeah, maybe in major cities.
Bro. Hold on, Dennis is killing me. Moose, get in here, bro.
Okay, so a couple things. Okay. I wanted to say 2 points. 1 point. In 5 years' time, there will be another mid-band spectrum auction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There will be.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the telcos under US Telecom, that's their I forgot what the term is right now. Lobbying, yeah, that's their lobbying group as a whole, the whole telecommunications industry.
Did you catch Stanky get pissed today about the spectrum situation?
Right. So Stanky was extremely frustrated with the spectrum situation because unlike other countries like South Korea, right, and UK, there are more spectrum options in the sense of
they have a map. Yeah.
Right. So that's number one. That's going to happen within 5 years. That there's going to be another, probably several mid-band spectrum auctions to erase this quote unquote lead of T-Mobile and Verizon. That's number 1 point. Yes, I'll tell you why. Okay.
Okay.
Because even the most recent Ookla announcement, the press release, how far away is AT&T from Verizon today from that announcement? Sneed can pull it up. It was a very small difference in speed, even though Verizon has over 160 megahertz of C-band. These are the facts. Now,
nationwide.
This was an Ookla. Goddamn, you're not even going to agree with Ookla?
No,
damn.
All I said was nationwide.
This was nationwide, boy. This was nationwide.
B, not boy. B, not boy.
B, it's B.
So 160 megs is deployed nationwide at Verizon.
Listen, I'm not going to refute.
I'm asking a question. I'm
just
asking a question.
Just like you mentioned that it was in certain companies' only best interest to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to tell you this right now. Verizon had two, in my opinion, major critical errors to their network build. 2. Number 1, they chose Samsung when they had an inferior product amongst Ericsson. That's number 1. Because they're limited to the amount of megahertz today until their next generation radio. That's the facts, okay? That's 1 point. And number 2 point, which I got vindicated. I feel vindicated once again, okay? South Korea just did an article that mmWave does not work. I feel vindicated once again, and I'll tell you why. Because
Okay.
their 28 gigahertz that was given to them, every single one of their providers, LGU Plus, SK Telecom, and KT were given a significant amount of millimeter wave spectrum in the 28 gigahertz range. They were given 3 years to deploy enough to keep the license, and none of them were given the license after the most recent audit. Why? Because they went all on record and said that millimeter wave does not work for them. They'd rather have more mid-band. That was the eye-opening moment.
So
That was right there.
because it didn't work in South Korea, and Verizon is made a bad decision
Even
on millimeter wave.
South, think,
Although we know that AT&T owns millimeter wave, as does T-Mobile.
look at what I'm
So
about to say.
are you saying the
This,
entire? Go ahead.
this is the checkmate. In a much more densely populated country and densely populated cities, even more dense than New York City, okay? And Dennis can agree with me on that one because
I
he's
lived
been
there
there.
for a month. Yep.
He's been there. It's more densely populated than even New York City.
And before you continue, let me add too. They don't even have the ordinance codes there. They'll put cell towers up anywhere they
They'll
want.
put anywhere. Yes, they don't care where the damn antenna is. They will put it anywhere. Okay? So again, more highly densely populated than even New York City. They're cities. And they weren't able to get millimeter wave to work. That right there is the exact vindication that I need to basically say, and I'm on record once again. Verizon's strategy of millimeter wave was a stopgap measure, which means it was a band-aid until
No,
mid-band spectrum.
That's
no,
They
wrong.
are
That's
not
wrong.
no,
going
that's
to
That's
wrong.
wrong.
continue
That's
deploying. I am
Bro,
wrong.
telling you right now.
That's
that's
wrong.
dead wrong. If that's
That's
the case,
wrong.
then why is AT&T deploying massive millimeter wave now all of a sudden here?
Exactly.
For the
It's so
F1
wrong.
for
It's
the
not
Super
even
Bowl.
funny.
Come on, bro. Come
Come
All
on.
right,
on,
so
man.
let me
Tripping.
comment. Let me comment in here. What I think Verizon understands and what they've been able to do is they're playing chess when a lot of people think they're playing checkers. What Verizon has done is they've invested in technologies that are going to facilitate like improved propagation, improved reach. They've invested in and purchased companies who are creating the technologies that will be leveraged for millimeter wave improvement. We haven't seen the repeaters. We haven't seen the pivots. We haven't seen the echoes. We have seen in concept what can be done in a stadium. We have seen what they could do from, utility poles and lines. And so far, it has far exceeded the expectations. Everybody told me that millimeter wave didn't work because of leaves. Meanwhile, I'm connecting to millimeter wave in the bakery. So I've already been more than impressed, and I've already basically kind of proven, some of those fallacies wrong. I think the reason why millimeter wave doesn't work for certain companies is because they haven't committed to it or figured it out. Millimeter wave is going to require some really unique configurations. It's going to require technologies. You have to embrace the grind. You need huge, massive fiber circuit capacity. It's not for the faint of heart. There's only one carrier right now that we can even remotely say has the capacity and the willpower to even attempt it, and it's Verizon.
So
Yeah.
I want to chime in real quick. I don't think millimeter wave is useless. I just want to clarify this really fast. It has a very important use case, like the stadiums, like the concerts, like the airports. However, I don't think millimeter wave is going to really shine during the 5G era. I think millimeter wave's importance becomes much more important when we start looking into 6G, and all the legwork that's being done right now by Verizon to get it in the ground will set them up to be in a better position once 6G comes around. But I think 5G is going to be the mid-band era because I don't see anything coming down the pike that's going to need the theoretical throughput in a more general urban speaking, suburban speaking setting that requires millimeter wave, nor do I see any company, including Verizon, being willing to go through the endeavor of putting down the amount of millimeter wave small cells that would be required to actually provide the necessary coverage to cover, say, a
this is crazy. I'll never understand this. So like everybody and their mother always has backup plans, always has insurance policies,
I
and
just
always
said
has
backup plans are
redundancies.
good. I just
And
said
always has redundancies. And then a carrier actually wants to build real capacity and people try to poo-poo on it like, why are you wasting your time? It's not wasting time. Like Verizon has clearly said they're going to
Yeah.
multi-purpose their network.
Uh,
Anybody who wants millimeter, man, you guys don't let nobody finish talking. What the hell's wrong with you guys? God damn. Go on, have at it.
well, I'll go. Thank you, Sneed. I think what we're trying to say here, at least a couple people on this stream, and to Sneed's point, is um, the in 10 years from now, when 6G is going to happen, your mid-band, all your mid-band capacity is going to be like how your low band is today. Okay, that's a fact. We're talking about. So what does that look like? We're talking about a minimum of a gig for what a low band would typically be as mid-band. Okay, so picture mid-band 1 gig as low band. We'll have a millimeter wave, right? You get at least probably up to 10 years time, probably up to 10 gig at that point for a 6G, right? So Verizon's approach always, and this is even before small cells, right, has always been a multi-network, multi-layered approach. So you can never tell me a time at all to where they just said, oh, okay, we'll just stick with one frequency or one technology and call it a day. They don't do that. They never have, they never will. So what millimeter wave is going to be doing for us in 10 years and with 6G is providing not just simultaneous downlink and uplink and amazing speed, but it's going to have continuity. So we're not going to be suffering with bad handoffs or bad drops or bad data streams or bad data sessions or buffering, right? All those things are going to be a thing in the past. It's going to take time, lots of time, lots and lots of fiber, lots and lots of backhaul. But that's just the reality. So that's it. Sneed, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, you guys are good. You can keep the conversation going. It's fine. I just wanted to throw the StreamYard link in the chat.
All right, Dennis. I will actually no. I take that back. Sorry, Dennis. I want to get Moose's commentary. Do you agree, or do you disagree?
There was a recent white paper that SK Telecom submitted about 6G, and it's dubbed the converged network, where basically no matter where you are, whether you're on an airplane, at sea, land, on the mountain, you'll be connected, right? Satellites will be included, land to air antennas, the vision that Randall had with WCS, band 30 spectrum. Basically everything was there, right? But the thing that I still am trying to figure out is, what is the application that is going to justify all this bandwidth? Because the Vision Pro Generation 1 is only Wi-Fi, okay? The Apple Car, we don't even know if they're even building it. They probably are, but I don't think it's going to be within people's price ranges. I don't see the application yet to justify the amount of bandwidth that we're pumping out right now in radio spectrum. It just doesn't make sense to me yet, right? Because, for example, the LTE era, right, the 4G era was Uber. All these giga industry jobs, and you can order whatever from an app. But the 5G era, what's it going to be? Who knows?
I just want to emphasize that I think millimeter wave has a purpose. I think that the carriers that invest in it right now are setting them up for an advantage in the future. I just, as you kind of touched on, outside of certain select circumstances like football stadiums, airports, I don't see the application of it being a necessary thing at the moment. And I think that there isn't going to be a carrier that has the resources or the effort to just use it as a blanket coverage, like literally covering, like, say, all of downtown Pittsburgh, right? Like I don't see Verizon doing that. Like they have it in places, they have it like along like the strip, right? But they're not going to just go out and like cover everything. They might put some coverage up on like Duquesne College or something, right? But they're not doing it like literally every like block. There might be places where they decide to do something a little bit different. Maybe they're getting ahead of it. But with the current limitations of the millimeter wave technology, which I do think get solved with some of the things that are being put down in the 6G white paper, but with current limitations, I don't see it being as effective of a solution versus trying to put more resources and effort and focusing in midband. Right now, I think midband still has a lot of juice left in it. Like, even if the carriers didn't get any additional spectrum for midband, there's still a lot of juice left with future antennae enhancements, positioning enhancements, power, different pieces of optimization, standalone core, the network slicing, the network management and how that's done, routing of traffic, lots of ways that you can improve the network. And I think, as Zero Cool touched on, midband will become the new band 13, right? Once 6G comes around. But for right now, the bandwidth is there's clearly more bandwidth than is needed by consumers. Hence the reason why carriers are happy to sell fixed wireless products to leverage this unused capacity.
You think we need an auction in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
As far as midband goes, or?
Well, because you were, I guess, campaigning for a midband. So what do we got?
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, I think we need an auction as soon as possible. I think in order for the space to be healthy and have true competitors, and I put this on one of your comments, but I think every carrier needs to have at minimum 200 megahertz worth of midband spectrum available to them. That's the minimum required to be able to actually be competitive in the future. Ideally, each carrier has 400 megahertz of midband spectrum. If every carrier had at least 400 megahertz of spectrum, I think they would be good for essentially, quote unquote, the life of what midband needs to serve as its purpose. And midband to me is going to be, I know we talk about like sub 6 gigahertz, but midband to me, if it could, even if it's something in the 8 gigahertz range, 8 gigahertz or less would be what I'd be considered acceptable midband.
Hello.
Does any carrier have 200 megs now?
I should mention that I've seen millimeter wave from US Cellular cover an entire floor of a doctor's office. It didn't seem to be affected by any of the internal structures or walls. So it just covered the entire waiting room and other areas in there. So
Because the antennas have improved. The elements within the antennas have improved. The technology has improved.
Yep.
I mean, I don't understand this whole trying to degrade the value of millimeter wave. I don't understand it, but whatever. I mean, everybody has their own opinions. You know, HSPA plus, WiMAX, everything. At the end of the day, everybody ended at LTE. So I mean, whatever. It is what it
I've
is.
I've
It is
seen a
what it is.
speed increase at one of the millimeter wave points over by a local vitamin shop in Rockford, and I posted about it on Twitter, complete with the map, so that someone could just go there whenever they're shopping for their vitamins and just test it out.
Hey, shout out to Justin. Thanks for the coffees, man. Appreciate it. It's very nice of you. Big shout out to the nation for supporting the SMT, keeping me caffeinated and motivated.
The loaded latencies and the unloaded latencies were a little bit closer to a good N77 connection than what I would expect from a millimeter wave. So.
Donald, do me a favor. Try to secure your phone so it doesn't move. Oh, or if you have like a headset, like a microphone, headphones or something, just try to secure your phone so it doesn't make so much noise.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So Nikki agrees with Dennis, 400 megahertz of midband.
Okay, I'll sign off now.
All right, Donald. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think 400 megs would be great. And of course, there's going to be another auction. You know, that's definitely true. And I agree that'll be an opportunity for, all the carriers to even the playing field. But it's not like any of them are going to not bid on those auctions. So even if, a T-Mobile gets 200 megs, someone else may get 200 megs as well. So I think Spectrum is a part of it, but it's also about how you're going to build and configure your network from a parameter standpoint as well. There's a lot of different battlefields that the 5G and 6G quote unquote wars are going to be waged on. So the good thing for the consumer is that there's more connectivity, really really solid connectivity than there ever has been before, and that's a good thing. There's more fiber deployed than there ever has been before, and of course we all expect that to continue, but we also know there are significant swaths of the country that still do not have a fiber player at all. And that's why fixed wireless access makes so much sense. And so, to that point, it makes sense for a company to invest in both ways to deploy connectivity. You invest in both. You invest in fixed wireless, you invest in fiber. You don't pick one, you invest in both. If you have the assets to deploy both, to build and deploy both. There's only one company that does. And that's the reason why, my money's still with Verizon. And it doesn't necessarily mean that AT&T is not going to have a viable product, because they will. Those guys are smart. They know what they're doing. They understand carrier aggregation. They have enough spectrum to still have a very useful and solid product, but they won't ever be able to tout the best product, in my opinion, because they simply don't have the assets. It is what it is. You still have to have the assets. So they'll have a solid product. It'll be great. People will love it. Fine. It just won't be the best product.
What's up, biggest cellular nerd? How you doing? You gonna unmute yourself? Nothing? Maybe we got a connection issue or something. All right. Well, we tried.
Is Lo still in here? Lo's, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, cool. All right.
I just wanted to quickly say, in regards to the 200 megahertz piece, the reason why I said that number is I'm most concerned about Dish. We're talking about technologies and stuff. I think that's going to be the minimum needed in order for Dish to leverage things like network slicing properly and stuff like that. I am really worried about their position in the next. I'm really worried about their position in the next 5 years with how things are going personally for them, from like a capital standpoint and a resources standpoint. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way though.
I got a question for you, Dennis, and also for the panel. Do you guys think that Dish Network will ever invest in fiber? Should they invest in fiber?
No. No, I don't think they ever invest in fiber. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. Their business model, I mean, they don't really know what to do with retail. They don't really know, like they can't do two things at once. How are they going to do fiber? Like that's like an impossible task. I mean, capital, a team. I mean, T-Mobile can't even do fiber. And they've got the biggest market cap in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that would be a daunting task, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it would.
Fiber's tough, man. It's hard to do.
Yeah, well, we'll see what T-Mobile does with the the possible Frontier purchase. Sneed, do you have another article on deck or no?
No, I was going to wrap up the show because I got to get off here, but I wanted to thank all my members, all my patrons, as well as all the donators tonight. S Blue Tech, Ciprione Tech, Raging Dusty, Justin with the coffees. Thank you guys. Big shout out to my panel of Dennis, B, Carlos, Moose, Zero Cool. Was anybody else here that bounced? Donald popped in for a little bit. Reader John, we'll get you on the next show, I promise. But we're gonna bounce here, and I want to thank you guys for coming on and hanging out with us. But we're gonna close it out. I got more content coming. There'll be videos tomorrow. A little bit more on the AT&T quarter, and of course, I think Verizon reports next, and then T-Mobile is after that. I think if it goes as planned, like how it normally does. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll see you as the best quarter. This one's going to be hard to beat, guys. AT&T killed it. But yeah, stay tuned as we cover more of those telco developments. Thanks, guys. Thanks to everybody for watching, supporting, like, share, and turn on the bell notifications so you guys know whenever we do go live and when we drop content. We out this piece. Peace.